Hello everybody and welcome to Haus. I'm Rob, and today we're going to be talking about new typings that could be added to the game of Pokemon. This has been a topic that has been talked about. I have the Hidden Power podcast up here. Now, we're not going to necessarily watch it, but I wanted to give them credit because I believe not only do they do a great job, I think, of explaining leaks, finding leaks, and I think, being honest about their opinions about rumors and the way that they love Pokemon, but I really just appreciate the fact that they went out and found all of this stuff on potential new typings. I think it's going to be a really interesting topic of conversation. If you didn't see one of our other videos from this week, I talked about the potential for, Gen 10 being a new, a possibility for new typings to be added. So if you haven't watched that one, you don't need to watch that to watch this video, but I would highly suggest you go back, give it a look, listen to my ramblings as I, kind of walk you guys through and myself mentally as to, whether or not there should be or would there be a new addition for typing. So spoiler alert, I do feel like they should, and that there probably will be, and we're going to kind of give this a look. So before we dive any deeper, though, I'm going to ask that you guys like and subscribe. Like if you feel like this content is interesting, helpful, or informative in any way, shape, or form, and subscribe so you're not missing out on all of the great Pokemon content we have coming out here at Haus. Also, let me know in the comment section below which of these typings you are most excited for, or if there's another typing for Pokemon that you would really like. So we're going to come back to this screenshot here, or this just, YouTube video here where there's light Pokemon. That is one that I think is possible. I'm going to kind of move it here. But there are 5 different typings that are explored by this DeviantArt, person here, by Charon, Adept Charon specifically on DeviantArt, where, they make this really awesome, infographic, right, that has, moves, potential, offensive and defensive, super effectiveness and weaknesses, and Pokemon that could potentially get, this typing added to it. He even has his own, evolution here. Looks like some sort of, Soundion or something like that. But, I think this idea of sound typing feels very likely. So that's where we're going to start. Like I said, we're going to kind of go from order of, I think, most likely to happen to least likely to happen. And I just want to start with the thought process around sound moves. I think sound moves are on the way, to be honest with you. I think sound or something like it is the most likely thing to be added, because when you look at Pokemon moves, right, when you look at kind of like, it's the senses, it's the elements, right, it's things that we have seen in the past. Like dragons are kind of this overarching thing that you can mix so many things into, right? There's like electricity, right, ground, grass, bugs, right? Like it's either some sort of, like animal classification that we have, or it's some sort of element. And that's what Pokemon has always been really good at adding into the game. And some of this, I think, came from the different desires, abilities, right, to understand that there were moves that they kind of had to push into certain categories more than they actually fit into them. It was like, something like round, like sonic boom, right, like supersonic screech, all these sound moves, hyper voice, right, echoed voice, they push these into different typings because they have nowhere else to put them. But all of these, right, if you look at them, they all have the ability to be in this type of sound typing. Now, I will say with this, it would mean that, I think specifically normal moves, because a lot of these things, I think, flow into the normal category right now. They would need to give some more moves to normal moves to, I think, kind of combine or make this possible without screwing over normal type Pokemon in a very serious way, because there are even a lot of normal Pokemon that have been changed for fairy typing, stuff like that in the past. But sound would make so much sense for Pokemon like Whismur, and Exploud, For Chimico, right? Like even Noivern and Noibat, like that would make so much sense. You can literally see the way, their ears, right? Like they are able to give off that sonic boom. They are able to make loud noises. That's the whole point of some of these Pokemon. Even Melota, right? I don't know how I feel about the Pyroars, right? And all of that. And I feel like actually, the Toxicitries would make a lot of sense. I don't know about Ludicolo. Losing that water typing would be a bummer, but Trumbeak, Toucannon, right? Like some of these Pokemon, I guess you could give it to Voltorb and Electro. That would be pretty interesting just because they were like the original Sonic Boom Pokemon, at least in my mind. But there are a lot of these Pokemon in here that I think would work with it, that I think would make a very interesting sound type Pokemon. You can literally see just based on their designs how well I think that would work. Dude, Primarina fans, I'm just seeing this right now. And Skeledirge fans, I think would be really upset. Losing those fairy typings, oh boy, that would be a bummer. But it works really well. It makes a ton of sense to me. I don't know if I necessarily... I think some of these offensive and defensive things would be way too many, right? Most Pokemon types have 2 or 3 things that they are super effective against, or, weakened by. I think some of these would make sense. I think being weak to... maybe electricity would make sense. The dampening of sound with water would be an interesting way to kind of go about it. Then you'd maybe pick between Bug and Poison typing. I talked about in the other video how Bugs could maybe use a bit of a boost, but at the same time, they're perfectly aligned in terms of 3, that they're super effective against and 3 that they're super affected by. So I maybe would lean towards Poison, but Poison also got a nice buff against Fairy typing. So maybe you do go Bugs, maybe you go somewhere else. Maybe even Steel Pokemon might be a good idea to have this, be a defensive weakness. That could be something. Like I see how they have it down here as a resist, but there's just a lot here that I don't think you necessarily need, but I like it. The super effective against, I'm guessing that this is fighting because this person has also come up with their own, type logos. I don't love this. War against Psychic, it doesn't really necessarily fit, I don't think. Then you have it being super effective against Steel. I don't know if you guys have ever yelled at Steel, but it doesn't really work. I guess the vibrations might be where they would go against it. But the big one here is that it would be super effective against electric type Pokemon, which is interesting because it'd be weak to and super effective against it. So I think that'd be a really interesting way for them to go about it. I would love to see that as a possibility. If you didn't know, electric Pokemon only have ground typing as something they're super effective by. I think, electric Pokemon are going to get a major nerf whenever the next type is added to the game, because ultimately, right, that's the only one I want to say right now. The only typing that has only one super effective type against it. So electric would definitely be the one that would need to be hit here. But overall, for the most part, I like most of these Pokemon. I think it would be a significant buff to a few of them. And I love this. I think that this seems very likely. I think these moves make sense. I don't know about the typings. I'd have to be, maybe convinced on their super effective by and against. But other than that, I really like this. I think this is good stuff. We'll head to the next one here, Cosmic typing. I think that this one seems very likely as well. We have so many Pokemon that have been, come from space, that are affected by space, right? You have, the Necrozmas, the Lunalas, right? The Solgalios, the Cosmogs and Cosmo, and it just makes sense. The Minior, right? Lunastone, all these Pokemon like Deoxys, right? Behemoth, the Clefairies, right? They originally came from there. I love how they would go from normal typing to fairy typing, now to cosmic and fairy typing. I think that would be awesome. Jirachi, all of these Pokemon make so much sense as to being a cosmic type Pokemon, and it just feels like there are so many Pokemon from space, from if you want to call it the future, right? And along with this, with where we're potentially going with Generation 10, where, there's going to be, it sounds like this play on the Greek gods. They're in the Cyclades Islands, in Greece. It just feels like, if you're looking at the stars and everything, like they could add this cosmic typing so easily and add so many new Pokemon, that could be on these islands. Like, there's a few Pokemon, from the last time we went to islands, which was Alola. They did kind of explore that cosmic, whatever you would like to call it. And I love this. I think, even Ledian getting some love here would be freaking awesome. This would be a really fun and interesting typing. This seems a little bit more realistic to me when it comes to, these defensive typings and everything. So, they are weak to poison, they are weak to ghost, and they are weak to dragon. That means that these Pokemon are not going to be going up against some of the strongest in the game, but that's okay. These are, I still think, some very good typings, things that they could go against there that I would really like. But they are on, super effective against fairy typing, flying typing, wind, and their new wind typing. We'll talk about wind here in a minute. And I'm going to guess that this is dark. So I personally love that. I think that, Cosmic would fit really well in here. I do think that it's unfortunate because I would have preferred it be super effective to Ghost Pokemon. I think that would be very helpful. The Dragon typing does need another super, type that they're super effective against, so that would make sense. I love that, Cosmic Pokemon are resisting, so many things, so this would be a really good, defensive typing as long as you're not facing one of these three. And then if you look at all of these moves, I talked about this already, but, normal moves are kind of becoming a thing of the past in this situation, right? Like, you're losing Swift, Reflect, Light Screen, a lot of fairy type moves as well are getting hit here, with Moonblast, as well as I believe Wish, looks like Hyper Beam, lose one of the main normal type moves becoming a cosmic typing, but all of these things make sense to me. I think that they could very easily, have this added into the game. And if I had to pick, because I said that I believe, we have 18 types now, I think adding 2 more would be the way to go. And I think Sound and Cosmic would make the most sense in my opinion. But like I said, you guys can let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. But we still got 3 more that we're going to go through here. I'm going to try to go through these ones a little quicker just because I don't believe them as much. The light typing is, I think, still up there. Apparently, I don't remember this because, again, I was a kid. But apparently, with Generation 2 or with Generation 6, a lot of people thought that light would be added instead of fairy. Now that I'm saying that, I kind of remember that because I was actually in high school / college during that time period. So maybe my memory's a little off there, but I do kind of remember there being rumors of a new type and it being light. I was focused more on school and, all the other things that go with being at, college / university. So, I was not all that focused on Pokemon, even though I was playing it quite a bit. But I think light typing would make sense to me. I think it's a good typing that could fit in the game. It is something that I think, a lot of people kind of would resonate with. I would worry that it would be confused between fairy and fire type, right? Even this logo is the sun, right? And electric typing. And I think that might be the reason why, that it would be kind of kept out of these games, is because there's just no reasoning for this one to get added. Again, it could be good against maybe ghost typing, which I don't think I would hate too much. Maybe it's at least neutral against electric. I don't really know exactly how that would work, but these Pokemon would make sense. If you notice, there are a couple electric Pokemon on there. There's only one fire Pokemon, but it's really Ampharos, my favorite, the Zebstrika line, the Heliolisk line. I could see how this might end up somehow, becoming, I think maybe not convoluted, but mixed up, confusing for a lot of people. I still would like it. I think if they could find a way to separate it from those 3 typings that I talked about, from fire, from fairy, and from electric in a significant way, I would be open to this idea, but I just think it's too close to some of the other one. I know that like psychic and dark and ghost are close to cosmic. I think really only sound. I mean, you could do wind, which we'll talk about here in a second, or flying, I guess, could be connected to it, right? But there's just light just doesn't feel like the one that would be a great addition in my mind. But I do like how some of these Pokemon could get a little bit of extra love, and I see how it could work. It's just not the one that I like the most. Last two here, wind typing. Look, wind is what it is, but it feels like it is quite literally the same thing as flying. I understand that we have ice and water, right? Bug and grass. Like there are things that are very similar, that are connected in serious ways. I just don't know that I think wind typing is necessary. I don't know that that this one would work as well. I love the Pokemon choices for this one, though. I think that they would all be pretty outstanding, pretty amazing, really fun typings that could get added. You see the Noibat and Noivern down here again, right? You see, like Pidgeotto and Pidgeot losing their normal typing, which I actually don't think works that great for them. But Butterfree loses its flying typing, so it feels like, again, like you can even see right here that it's really getting onto the turf of flying Pokemon. That makes it, again, a lot less likely for me, not something that I would personally really feel like is necessary, but I don't know. Maybe you guys would feel differently about this one, but it's not one that I would love. Having it be weak to even one of the new typings with Cosmic is fine. I think that would work-ish, but like, why is Wind typing weak to Psychic typing? I don't think that really makes sense. I guess if you can control the winds, maybe, but I don't know. I feel like maybe electricity would be somewhere in there. I don't know. Like maybe ground. Maybe ground? I don't know. Like, see, like, that's where I struggle with this. Flying typing is the one that makes the most sense, just because, like, flying type Pokemon can kind of conquer the, the wind, right? But then the fact that they're super effective against water, ghost, fire, and bug would make this an incredibly strong typing. I've already talked about the fact that ghost typing could probably use, another one that it's super affected by. This would work very well for that. I think it would. Fire Pokemon would be in a bit of a pickle with this one, to say the least, and water. And it'd be really interesting to have two of the main three types, for starters, right, being affected by wind typing. Like, you'd have to run grass Pokemon and just hope that you don't run into something like a Dodrio, right, or a Doduo in the early game. That would be pretty incredible. Like, if your rival had a wind flying Pokemon, your starters would be screwed, right, for the most part, because they would be super affected against water, fire, and then grass with that flying type. So this one feels redundant to me for the most part. I would be open to it. I wouldn't hate it. It would make, wow, having quick attack, rapid spin, and extreme speed all be a part of wind moves would really, really, yet again, hurt normal typing, and that's where I struggle with this one. This last one I think is hysterical. I love it, but I don't think that this is realistic whatsoever. Rubber typing. Now, look, every Pokemon that is in this grouping makes so much sense. So much sense. And rubber, I think, is an interesting element, right? It's super stretchy. It is pretty resistant to a lot of things. That being said, I just don't know that it's necessary. The weird part is, again, like, it works with so many of these Pokemon. I think it's such a perfect way that would actually make them a bit stronger, would make sense with their I guess we'll call it body type, the way that they move, but I just don't know if I can see this one happening. I love that they are weak to steel. It's a way to grind it up. Dark Pokemon, that doesn't really make sense to me. You could maybe take that one out. I'd be okay. Poison again. I think this person just really likes poison typing. I don't know that I would have it be weak to poison. I think Steel and Dragon would make sense. You could maybe say, like, ground. You could maybe say rock in some way. I don't know. Something like that would make a lot of sense to me. I like that it's immune to water. It's resistant to so many freaking things. But also it's not very effective against a lot of Pokemon. I would honestly argue that it shouldn't be effective against Ghost Pokemon at all. But, that is what it is. But rubber moves are super effective on electric Pokemon. Again, we talked about this. This would be giving electric Pokemon their third type weakness of these 4 if they were all added. I think that would make sense. That would be smart for them to add this. Like I said, electric Pokemon are going to be kind of, getting the shaft here, to say the least. Super effective against water is interesting. I wouldn't hate it. And then super effective against fairy, I actually would like. I think that'd be really fun and interesting. So, I don't know what you guys think. I really love the idea of some of these. I don't hate, the idea of there being new Pokemon typings being added. I really, the rubber one looks fun to me. Like the cosmic one looks fun to me. Even the sound type looks fun to me. I don't love light and wind, but I think that they're at least more likely than rubber. To be honest with you, just because I can't imagine, Pokemon. Although if any company were to pull something like that out of their hat, it would be Pokemon. But I really think Sound and Cosmic feel like the way we're going. There are so many fan creations that have these kinds of things as well. So those would be the ones that would be my bet. And I do think we might get one or both of them or some variation of them in Generation 10. But like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this one. So from our house to yours, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.